They kidnapped my children. The HOA, the Serene Oaks Community Association, actually took them, claiming I had violated their sacred, unyielding 55-plus retirement rules. The irony was almost comical, except that I was terrified. My lawyer had already proven my property was a full 5 feet outside their jurisdiction, but these petty tyrants didn't care. What they didn't know was that I'm not just a homeowner with a good lawyer. I'm Judge Elias Thorne, a sitting federal judge, and they had just committed the single worst legal blunder of their miserable, rule-obsessed lives. How far would you go if the HOA took your family? If you love insane, satisfying revenge stories where the bad guys lose everything, hit that subscribe button because this one is a masterclass in legal annihilation. The morning started like any other. The low hum of the coffee maker, the scent of cinnamon toast, and my 2 kids, Leo and Clara, chattering about their upcoming summer camp. I was upstairs in my library, reviewing complex briefs for a 3-day session on corporate conspiracy, when I heard the thwack of paper aggressively shoved through my mail slot. Another notice from the HOA. I sighed, ready to dismiss the usual drivel about grass height or my politically incorrect garden gnome. But as I unfolded the high-gloss stationery, my breath hitched. The header was stark. Final warning. Violation of residency requirements. I scanned the text, and the blood drained from my face. Immediate eviction required. All unauthorized minors must be removed from the premises within 24 hours. Failure to comply will result in further action. Unauthorized minors. I reread the line, and my pulse started hammering. My home, a beautiful 4-bedroom house, sat outside their community lines, a fact my title insurance had guaranteed. These arrogant busybodies were claiming I was breaking their golden age restriction. I called my lawyer, Marcus Vance. "Marcus, we have a problem," I said, my voice unnervingly calm. "The Serene Oaks HOA is threatening to remove my children." Marcus chuckled, dismissive. "Elias, we shut this down during escrow. Your property is sovereign ground. It's a classic scare tactic. I'll send a federal cease and desist today. That should quiet the little dictators. That should have been the end of it. A minor annoyance." But I had underestimated just how utterly unhinged these people, especially their president, Evelyn Reed, were. The next day, I arrived home from court to a gut-wrenching silence. No laughter, no sound of the dog barking, no sneakers dumped by the door, just silence. Panic, raw and corrosive, crawled up my spine. "Leo! Clara!" I called, rushing inside. The house was empty. Their backpacks were by the door, untouched. My heart seized. I frantically dialed their phones, straight to voicemail. The cold dread solidified into ice. I dialed 911. The dispatcher's voice was calm, but I could barely speak. The next 2 hours were a blur of police questioning. Did I have enemies? As a federal judge, yes, plenty. Cartel leaders, financial criminals. But not this. Then an officer found it. Another HOA letter taped to my door with a sickening sense of finality. I read it, and my vision blurred with a searing, white-hot rage that eclipsed all fear. As your unauthorized tenants have failed to vacate, the Serene Oaks Association has taken steps to ensure compliance. Your children will be held in a safe, board-approved location until this matter is resolved. I had presided over cases involving mobsters and terrorists, but never had I seen such profound, idiotic criminal audacity. An HOA claiming to kidnap children. "Judge," the lead officer asked, his face pale, "did your HOA just admit to taking your kids?" I forced myself to breathe, the ice hardening into resolve. "Yes," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "They did. And they have no idea who they just messed with." A search began. Then Mrs. Goldstein, my kind elderly neighbor who adored my kids, pulled me aside. "Judge Thorne, I saw something. 2 clean-cut men in dark suits, not police. Take them in a black SUV toward the community clubhouse." That was the only clue I needed. I turned to the officers. "We're going to that clubhouse, now." We stormed the Serene Oaks clubhouse. Evelyn Reed, the self-proclaimed empress, sat behind a massive desk, smiling like a predator. She was everything I hated, smug, entitled, and utterly convinced of her own righteousness. "Ah, Judge Thorne," she purred, adjusting her overly expensive glasses. I was expecting your lawyer. This is a very serious violation. How dare you? I slammed the letter onto her desk, my voice shaking with fury. Where are my children? Evelyn tilted her head, feigning innocence. Your illegal tenants have been relocated to a board-approved interim facility until this matter is sorted out. She spoke as if she were discussing overdue library books. The officers exchanged uneasy glances. I forced myself to lower my voice to a dangerous, barely audible whisper. That's kidnapping. Do you understand what you've done, Evelyn? She let out a breathy, condescending laugh. Please don't be dramatic. We are merely enforcing our foundational covenant. The HOA has rules. She had made her fatal mistake. She had stolen my children and was hiding behind the word rules. I turned to the lead officer. You heard her. She's openly admitting to detaining minors without consent. The officer straightened. Mrs. Reed, if you don't tell us where the children are immediately, you will be charged with felony unlawful detainment and conspiracy. Her confidence cracked, but she held her ground, clinging to her title. This is a civil matter, officer. You have no jurisdiction. Shut the hell up, I snapped, the full, unbridled authority of my life's profession exploding into the room. I am a federal judge, you lunatic. This isn't a civil dispute. This is federal kidnapping. Her jaw dropped. The shock was absolute. She wasn't used to pushback. She was used to crushing people with bureaucracy. Before she could even sputter a word, the officer stepped behind her, pulling out the cuffs. Evelyn Reed, you're under arrest for unlawful detainment. Wait. Wait, she shrieked, struggling. They're at St. Jude's after-school program. Please, they're just at a daycare. I didn't wait to hear the rest. I ran. I drove like a madman, the police sirens following me like a vengeful tail, speeding toward St. Jude's. My hands clenched the steering wheel, my heart hammering one thought. They had my kids. I bolted out of my car and into the school. The principal, a pale, frazzled woman, met the officers at the door. Yes, she stammered. 2 children were dropped off by a guardianship service under the Serene Oaks HOA. Where are they? I bellowed. Room 301, but the guardian is still there. I ran, my shoes pounding against the linoleum. Room 301. I grabbed the handle and shoved the door open. There they were. Leo and Clara sat at a small table, looking scared but unharmed. Beside them stood a woman in a stiff suit, an HOA operative, her eyes widening in horror as I stormed in. I ignored the operative, rushing forward and pulling them both into my arms. Dad, Leo sobbed, clutching my suit jacket. It's okay, babies, I whispered, holding them tight. I'm here now. I will never let anyone touch you again. The operative, still delusional, cleared her throat. Mr. Thorne, these children were placed under temporary HOA. Shut up! My voice was so low, so venomous, the entire room froze. You are not the government. You are not a legal entity, and you are under arrest. I turned to the officers. Arrest her. Conspiracy to commit kidnapping. The cop didn't hesitate. The operative's screams were cut short by the click of the handcuffs. I pulled my kids behind me, shielding them. You're about to learn what real legal power looks like. The legal war begins. By the time I got back home, the remaining HOA board members were scattering like mice. They knew they were finished. I called Marcus. This isn't just a civil suit, I said, pacing my office. I want criminal charges across the board. RICO, racketeering, wire fraud, illegal detainment, conspiracy, abuse of power. They took my children, Marcus. I want them destroyed. Using the immense subpoena power available to me, I dove into the HOA's financial records. What I found was a treasure trove of criminality. They had been embezzling money from residents for years, fraudulent fines, fake security fees, shell companies funneling money into board members' private accounts. The entire WPA was a scam. They had been robbing every resident for nearly a decade. 2 weeks later, the entire HOA collapsed. Faced with overwhelming federal evidence, the entire WPA board was indicted. Evelyn Reed, the arrogant president, was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison for kidnapping and fraud. Every other board member received varying substantial sentences for conspiracy, fraud, and embezzlement. The judge ordered total restitution. The HOA was permanently dissolved, and every single illegal fine they had ever issued was refunded with punitive damages. But my victory wasn't just in the courtroom, it was personal. The foreclosure notices started hitting the remaining board members. I called Marcus. "How many board members have been forced to sell their homes?" "At least 7, Elias." "Why?" I smiled, a grim, satisfied expression. "Because I want to buy them. I was going to own their legacy." With Marcus's help, I quietly used my resources to acquire the foreclosed properties of all 7 former board members. I owned the majority of the homes that once belonged to the most powerful people in the Serene Oaks Association. And when I had control, I held a neighborhood-wide vote to officially dissolve the HOA. The turnout was overwhelming. The vote passed with 92% approval. I watched the final meeting with cold satisfaction. I personally hired a demolition crew to rip out the ridiculous Serene Oaks HOA sign at the entrance. I bought the former HOA clubhouse and converted it into a community center, a place for children's parties and neighborhood cookouts. No more board meetings, just joy. The HOA was dead. Its leaders were in prison. Its stolen money returned. The last time I saw Evelyn was at her sentencing. She was weeping, begging the court for leniency, her expensive clothes swapped for an orange jumpsuit. I leaned forward, meeting her dead in the eyes. "You kidnapped my children, Evelyn," I said, my voice low and final. "You stole from innocent families. You thought you were above the law. You deserve everything that's happening to you." The judge banged the gavel. 10 years, no parole. I sat on my front porch the next morning, sipping my coffee, watching Leo and Clara play safely in the yard. The HOA thought they could manipulate the law. They forgot who I was, and I made sure they paid for it. Tell me in the comments below. I used my influence and legal knowledge to destroy the HOA and bought 7 of the board members' foreclosed homes. Was this just a fight for justice, or did I become exactly the kind of tyrant they were, just with better rules? Let me know your honest opinion.